Hello. Don't be creeped out by the skull. This is a plastic model I got from the Science Museum. We're going to talk about, for the next several days, about my favorite dead guy. Okay, this is the lesson for October 22nd. And the people that were gone today, that were at home, those would be the B students. They never saw the timeline that we added today in the A-Day class. So I'm going to write that again here at the top. Okay, and this will get us set up for a really, really interesting unit. Okay, so write human technology here. This is a repeat. The A-Day kids will be able to fast forward this part because they already have it. Human technologies. Okay, so we keep track of history, especially really old stuff, by what tools people were using, what materials they were using for their most important tools. Okay, so this is just a simple timeline. Do an arrow like this, and about 2/3 of the way across, put a 0. Okay, that separates the era, the time periods we call before Christ, BC, and Anno Domini, year of our Lord. Anno is Latin for year. Domini is Latin for Lord. AD. So the year we're in right now, we're over half done with one of the worst years ever, 2020 AD. And that would go, we'll put that one here. 2020 AD. Okay. Now, what you need to know is we haven't always depended on digital things for our number one tools. Okay. Now our number one tools are invisible ones and zeros that flow in incredible streams from our phones through our computers, all that kind of stuff. Our number one technology is information, is digital. It wasn't always that way. Okay? So what you need to know is the Stone Age is the oldest, when people made tools out of stone and bone and leather and wood and that kind of stuff. Okay? And then I'm going to draw a line here to separate this. Okay? Then people figured out the very first metal that people discovered on how to use was copper. There's green minerals that if you pound them into a powder and you get them hot enough, this really cool reddish brown metal comes out. You know, it's copper. They didn't know. I don't know. We don't know how they discovered it. But when they found copper and made stuff out of copper, it was very impressive because now you can make things like fish hooks. There's no such thing as a stone fish hook. That's not going to work. A bone fish hook and a wooden fish hook, they're okay. But man, a copper one's way better. Okay? So copper became the highest tech tool for humans. And then later, and copper's, it's neat, but it's not very hard. Then people figured out that if they got their fires hot enough and they added a metal that we call tin, if you add tin to your copper, you get bronze, and that's the Bronze Age. Okay? And bronze is much harder than copper. It's more durable. Okay? And then after bronze, later came the Iron Age. And iron is much stronger than bronze. And then you can make buildings out of it. Okay? You know, bridges. Okay? Now, we're going to change things a little bit. The next one is not called the Steel Age. That's really what it was. We call it the Industrial Age. Okay, that's steel. And now we're in the post-industrial age, we're in the information age. I'm just going to write info because I ran out of room. Okay? That is digital. That's our most important technology, is digital. Okay? Now, back to my favorite dead guy. Okay? We live in the year 2020. Okay? This story starts for us in the year 1991, when obviously you weren't around yet. Your parents may have been my students. Okay? In 1991. So this is the story of the Iceman. That's one of his nicknames. We don't know his real name. Okay? Iceman, aka also known as Ötzi. I'll explain that other name later. That's a German letter, and it makes more of a W sound. Ötzi. Okay? The computer doesn't like it when I have to go to special things to add that character. Okay? Also known as Ötzi. Okay? Now, we're going to watch some video, not as much as I wish you could watch. Okay? And Ötzi was discovered on a date that's easy for me to remember, September 1991. Okay. In fact, let me get ready. I'm going to hit play. And we'll get started here. Hit play. September 19th. All right. 9191991. Okay. 2 Austrian hikers find a body frozen in ice. All right. So we're going to take a ton of notes on this, but not right now.
When Helmut and Erika Simon went hiking in the Austrian Alps, they had no idea they would make the most important discovery in modern archaeology. Taking an unmarked path across the Similon Glacier, they stumbled upon a dead body frozen in the ice. Although they didn't realize it, they had discovered a time.
You're looking at the back of his head and his shoulder blades, his little shriveled up ear. So they went and called the cops, like you're supposed to.
Police who arrived assuming the corpse was the body of a mountain climber. As they struggled to free it, they also discovered a strange axe with a metal blade nearby. But before they could finish digging out the body, the weather had worsened, forcing them to leave the mountain. It wasn't until 4 days later that a team arrived on the glacier to take the body to the Institute of Forensic Medicine in Innsbruck.
Pay attention to the guy in gray, okay? When they called the cops, hey, we found a dead guy. He's the guy that gets the job to come up. It took 4 days till the weather was good enough for the helicopter. This is way up in the mountains, okay? He did not bring any equipment with him for getting a body out of the ice. He is not very well prepared. He's going to be made to look pretty foolish in this video. He's standing on the body.
The man in charge was forensic scientist Rainer Henn. He had heard nothing about the axe, so he treated the corpse as a routine matter.
He's standing on the body.
Found Triceratops that year.
He's standing on the body. Oh my goodness. Come on, guy, get a clue.
Strangely, Henn brought no equipment for removing a corpse frozen.
There's a shriveled up ear.
So he asked a passing mountaineer to lend him an ice pick and a couple of ski poles.
They're hacking the body out with an axe. This is not what you're supposed to do.
As he set about the task, Henn realized that the body was completely different from others he'd recovered. It was the wrong color.
A bird has already been working on the scalp meat. That's the back of the head. So a bird's been working on the meat. That's the only scavenging I know that was done on the body. Okay.
Normally, when a body has been frozen, the flesh turns to a white soapy material called adipocere.
That's his foot.
A chemical reaction of the body's fat to moisture. This corpse's flesh was brown and leathery, like a mummy.
When I first saw this body was a little bit strange for me because it was not typical body from the glacier. Usually it's changed in adipocere, and this body was completely mummified. That means the body was dried, and when it was completely dried, then it was covered with snow and ice.
That's part of the
The
shoe.
body out, Henn discovered another mysterious thing.
Later on, we found a knife.
A flint knife with a wooden handle.
And stone, and so I got the idea this body must be very, very old.
Yeah.
Despite these unusual finds, Henn's prime concern was to get the body back to his lab for an autopsy and identification. It was flown off the glacier by helicopter and driven to Innsbruck.
There's the shoe that's still in good shape.
In Henn's autopsy room, the body was laid out with some of the strange implements that both Henn and the police had found.
There's his axe.
Not just the metal-bladed axe and the flint knife, but a marble bead, a small leather pouch, and other mysterious objects. The only reasonable explanation was that he was not a modern climber, but a man from a distant past. But how distant?
So they call in an expert.
Archaeologist Konrad Spendler was summoned the next morning to give his opinion.
As soon as I saw the objects found with the body, the axe, the flint knife, it was clear that the find dated from the Central European Early Bronze Age.
Did you catch that? Early Bronze
The
Age.
axe is particularly significant. It is absolutely typical of the Early Bronze Age. There can be no doubt about the
No doubt.
archaeological dating. I have therefore given the approximate date of this find as 2000 BC.
And he's completely wrong. Now, you might be thinking, Fiscus, why are you making us write down stuff that's wrong? Because one of the standards we're going to do is what scientists do when they find out they made a mistake. You don't go on Twitter, okay? You find out your mistakes. Scientists are always supposed to be looking for mistakes, their own or other people's. And then they say, hey, we found a problem with this. And then other people check, and then we all get smarter. Okay, so 1991, they find the body. The hikers called the cops like you're supposed to if you find a body. And when the weather got nice, 4 days later, they get up there and hack him out of the ice with an axe and 2 ski poles, which is not what you're supposed to do. Anyway, they got him out. And then they call in an expert. Okay? The body doesn't look normal, okay? He's been freeze dried. He feels like a piece of beef jerky, okay? Ordinarily, if you freeze to death, the fat underneath your skin makes you feel like a bar of soap when they find you, okay? It's kind of slippery. But the Iceman is all leathery. So something's happened to him. He's been freeze dried, okay? This is not a recent freezer death, okay? He's been dead for a really long time. So here's the expert. Konrad, he He was wrong on a lot of stuff. He's right on other stuff too. He did not have his career ruined by being wrong. When people looked at the mistakes he made, they're like, oh man, that's easy. We can see why he got fooled by that. Okay, because the Iceman, his axe looks like a Bronze Age axe. Conrad Spindler, expert. He said there can be no doubt. It's absolutely typical. He's early Bronze Age. Conrad Spindler, expert. Dated body as from early Bronze Age. I should make capital B. Early Bronze Age. Because of the color of the axe, color and shape of the axe. Okay? It's all about the axe. This is, dude, Bronze Age is really old. Really old. Okay, we're at 16 minutes already. I'm going to continue with playing some more. Okay, here we go.
Here, almost perfectly preserved, was a time traveler from a lost age. A man who died long before Columbus arrived on the shores of America. A man who walked the mountains of Europe long before Jesus Christ preached in Galilee. Before Alexander the Great made his conquests. Before Plato and Aristotle. A man almost as old as the pyramids. A visitor from a time when Europeans forged tools from bronze. Before his discovery, little was known about the Bronze Age in Europe. Archaeologists could only ponder the few artifacts that survived. All they knew was that it was a society of farmers and herders. Now they have a snapshot of the past. An ancient man of the mountains with his equipment.
Notice they have him laying out on a table so everybody can look at the body. That's important for later.
Spindler would be the first to investigate this unprecedented find.
The thought came to me that this perhaps is what my colleague Howard Carter experienced when he opened the sarcophagus of Tutankhamun and looked into the face of the pharaoh. Perhaps what I experienced was similar to what he felt at the time.
His eyes are still in there. They're just all shriveled up like little raisins.
The tasks facing us now, the organization of the research projects, which are going to be on a very large scale.
Spindler would need international help with the research. The media alerted scientists across the globe.
He's just sitting out at room temperature. That says 4,000 years in ice.
4,000 years ago has been found preserved in the ice of a glacier in the Italian Alps. It's the oldest intact.
Never before had scientists been able to work with a body so old and in such good condition.
All right, I'm going to...
The best preserved frozen bodies, a group of Greenland Eskimos, are a mere 500 years old.
That's an Eskimo baby.
The bog bodies of Northern Europe are some 2,500 years old and are not complete. Their internal organs rarely survive.
I need to explain. That's a white man who has been buried on purpose in a bog, which is a swamp with tons of leaves in the water. And basically, it pickles you. Okay? And it turned his white skin to black as a, I don't know, like tar. Okay? His hair is a funny red. His body was preserved in this bog water. Okay? So that's like 2,000 years old. That's neat, but the Iceman's older.
The mummies of Egyptian pharaohs are very old, up to 5,000 years. but they had been embalmed with chemicals and had usually had their guts and brains removed. Naturally dried mummies have been found in Egypt.
They're about as,
But they are very fragile.
they're like potato chips.
Crumble to dust.
You can push your finger right through them. They're,
The Iceman eclipsed them all. This spectacular discovery, an almost perfectly preserved body over 4,000 years old, would hold thousands of clues to the times in which he lived. His clothing and artifacts would hold thousands
that's what's left of his hiking shoe.
I think it's one of the most significant finds that have been made recently. It's almost as if, I've been spending years walking around museums looking at pottery and flint in cases, and then suddenly you come around a corner and you see an actual person clothed. Perhaps you can't speak to him, but he is a real person.
For Dr. Janet Levy, who has spent her life studying prehistoric cultures, it was the most exciting discovery of her career.
There is a special thrill to look face to face with a real human being.
This is very important.
Who has had his own culture, his family.
This is very important.
Experienced the world somewhat the way we do, but also experienced it differently. And it has spectacular potential for teaching us about ancient lives. Not great treasures and tombs and monuments, but ordinary daily life.
All right, I paused it there. Here's the important part I need to make. We're going to write down a little bit more, and then we're going to be done. Okay? The Iceman never had a funeral. Okay? Nobody cleaned him up. Nobody dressed him up in his best clothes. Nobody gave away his possessions to his kids. His stuff is there with him. Okay? That's super important. Okay? Now, Iceman was not buried. Okay? We can actually find out more about what it was like back then better from somebody like the Iceman than from somebody like King Tut. Okay? Because he was a king, for crying out loud. Okay? And everybody made all kinds of special... Everything's fake. I shouldn't say fake. Everything's all weird for a king's burial in a tomb. Okay? The Iceman just is dead. Boom. Like somebody hit the stop button. Okay? This means we can learn more. This means we can learn more about how people lived back then. Okay? If you want to find out what life was like in ancient Egypt, well, you can look at King Tut's life, but he was the king. Okay? So in his tomb, there's he had mummified pet cats, so he'd have cats with him in heaven. He had slaves that somebody killed, his slaves, and mummified them, so he'd have slaves, servants to help him when he was a king in the afterlife. Okay? Regular people don't have slaves. Okay? The Iceman, when he died alone with his stuff. Okay, now we're at 24 minutes. Okay. I'm getting all of this from the Nova video from 1991. Please write that down. It's super important. Okay. Actually, it's 1992. This video was made a few months after the body was found. Okay. So a lot of the stuff they're telling you in this first early video is wrong. They're making some educated guesses, and they're going to find out they're wrong. And I'll tell you what we found out about them later. Like, remember when we thought this? Well, we were wrong about that. Okay. Some of the stuff we learned early on is agreed to be right, but a lot of the stuff that we thought we knew about the Iceman is wrong. Okay. All right. I'm going to hit stop. This is almost 25 minutes. If you find this stuff interesting, do a search for Ötzi. If you search up Iceman, you get all kinds of stupid stuff from a movie And there's also a mob hitman named the Iceman. But if you look up Ötzi or Ice Mummy, you'll find the right kind of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff out there. It's really interesting. All right, I'm going to stop now at 25 minutes.